human sexuality through education, science, and open, respectful conversation. And of course, I have my special guest. She's a aphrodisiac foods expert, and of course, an author too, none other than Miss Amy Reiley.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you.
Welcome, Miss Amy on Sex 101. Well, people, Miss Amy is always my guest on Book 101 Review, Abstract Essay. Now we're expanding because we want to promote Eat Cake Naked. Mm. So, before that, Miss Amy, can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Wow, sure. Hi, I'm Amy. I'm considered a leading authority on aphrodisiac foods. I've written 5 aphrodisiac cookbooks, and I also have my nutrition coaching certification. So I really like to look at it from both the history side and the health side. Um, yeah, what else would you like to know?
Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Amy. Thank you. So let's talk about the book itself. The title is wonderfully evocative. Beyond the literal, what does it cake naked symbolize about the broader experience you are inviting readers into regarding intimacy, pleasure, and vulnerability?
So yeah, I wrote this book more than anything because I love dessert. And when you're someone who talks a lot about like how food affects your body and how food affects your health, people don't expect you to be a dessert lover. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to show people that desserts are part can be part of romance, not only be a part of romance, they can be a part of your sex life. You can eat dessert and still feel sexy, and these recipes are going to help you do all those things.
Definitely. Certainly, people. Your book connect dessert with desire. What is about the shared sensory or indulgement act of eating dessert that make it such a powerful gateway to
Mm.
intimacy compared to, say, cooking a meal together?
Well, there are a lot of similarities, but dessert is, first of all, we've always thought we kind of hold dessert in regard to something special, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a special moment. And also, a lot of dessert foods have really indulgent textures. It can be an experiential, eating in them is experiential. Like, I think of the key lime pie recipe that's in Eat Cake Naked, which is, by the way, my husband's favorite.
Uh-huh.
If I ever want to seduce my husband, all I have to do is make the key lime pie and eat cake naked. But
Mhm.
this recipe, I'm thinking of it because it's topped with whipped cream. Then
Oh,
it's
nice.
got the layer of the creamy, puddingy sort of key lime layer,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that is on top of a macadamia nut crust. So the crust is salty and crunchy, but still sweet. And so it's a sensory experience to have all 3 of those textures plus the bright sour flavor of the key lime along with that creamy mellow flavor of whipped cream, and then you add in the salty macadamia nuts, and it's experiential.
Experiential for sure. It's something else to look forward to. And you frame these aphrodisiac desserts. How do you balance the folkloric, sensual history of a certain ingredients with creating recipes that are genuinely delicious and approachable for home cook?
So I actually, what I did with this book, more than approach it from sort of enhance, emphasizing the folkloric side, I really worked more. Co-wrote it with Delana Flagg, who is has her PhD I think it's functional nutrition, is some aspect of nutrition, and so she really is an expert on sexual health from that nutrition side. And what we did was found ways to take a lot of these recipes, took traditional recipe ideas, and we didn't present them traditionally. Instead, we went, how can we take this apart and add something that is like functionally good for you? For example, my key lime pie, which is probably the worst example, but since we're talking about it, people are probably wondering, well, how do you make key lime, gives key lime pie something healthy? That crust, as I mentioned, is high protein.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
less sugar. We took out some of the sugar, we made it higher in protein. Yes, you're still eating whipped cream. Yes, it is not, you're still getting lots of sugar, but we added in an element of protein and fiber. With other recipes, we took it even further by replacing, for example, in our brownies, we don't use white flour at all. We use chickpea flour.
Nice.
So they're actually naturally gluten free for people who
Mm-hmm.
are looking for that. But they also have a lot of nutritional benefits. They have dark chocolate, they have nuts, they have chickpeas. And you never know it. You wouldn't think you're giving me some weird brownie. They're still
Mm-hmm.
delicious.
Definitely delicious. Definitely. So, Miss Amy, this book is about more than food. It is about connection. How can
Yeah.
the simple act of making and sharing dessert become a form of communication or a love language between partners?
I love that question. I love thinking of food as being a love language. I love
Mm,
thinking of food is, it's sort of an act of service, right? To make food for
yes.
someone. So it's more than one love language potentially. It can be a whole serving platter of love languages to make something. And a dessert is certainly an easy thing to make and present to someone as a romantic gift. Um, so I love the idea of desserts as a part of romance, even a part of foreplay.
Mm-hmm.
But it all starts with considering what the other person likes, what they want, what's going to turn them on, and not necessarily turn them on in a sexual way, but connect to them because you know exactly what they like. So you have to figure out what are those foods they like and how are you going to surprise them. Or maybe they don't even like surprises. How are you going to present to them this
Mm-hmm.
food that they love and then use it as sort of as this act of love and potentially as this act of seduction?
How would you present? Yes, definitely. So, Miss Amy, walk us through your creative process. When designing a dessert to be aphrodisiac, where do you start? Is it the sensation, an ingredient, or the intended mood?
You know, it can vary. It could be any of those three things. I may start with, I want, for example, I definitely said I want to have a brownie recipe in this book, and
Mm-hmm.
I built from there. But there were other times where I just, took a bite of something, maybe in a restaurant, and went, I want to recreate this texture. I want to recreate this moment. How can we? This is a very sensual thing, and I want people to have this very sensual food experience, and build it from there. So it just depends. Inspiration comes in many forms.
Definitely. It depends, people. So let's talk about the sense beyond taste. How do you think about engaging touch, smell, and even sight to create a fully body sensual experience?
It's really important to me, that multi-sensory experience. And I know most of us don't even think about it when it's happening, but it's something that I give a lot of thought to before I write a cookbook, and try to figure out where we can bring that in. And so, it's different with every recipe, and some may not hit on multiple points, but that's always my goal, to let you have, to have an enticing aroma, and maybe a dish with two different temperatures in the same dish. Those kind of sensations that wake us up a little bit, make us think a little, make us very present in the moment. I think, as far as romance and seduction go, that presence is possibly the most important factor.
Mhm. Definitely. The most important. being seductive for sure. So, can you share the story behind one of your favorite recipes in the book? What is the inspiration or personal experience that led its creation?
Oh my goodness. The one that comes to mind is so funny. It's not actually it's not one of my favorites to eat, but the concept and creation of it were so much fun and so important to me. I love the idea of using bacon in seduction. I've actually
Bacon.
bacon. I've actually read
Everybody.
many accounts of people just getting turned on by bacon.
Yes.
Um, and I love this idea. And I was like, okay. I actually had previously worked on a cookbook called Kiss My Bunt
Mm-hmm.
that had bacon cakes in it, but she actually used bacon grease. Or bacon
Okay.
butter, as she calls it, because it sounds better than saying I made my cake with bacon grease. Bacon butter to make these cakes, and obviously my part of my focus is to help you feel sexy and be energized, and using bacon butter isn't necessarily going to get you there. So it was, how can I use bacon effectively in a dessert? And I came up with, I wanted a simple dessert then that had this bacon element. I came up with a pumpkin loaf cake, which is a very simple kind of cake to make.
Mm-hmm.
Pumpkin, believe it or not, is also considered aphrodisiac and has some nutritional benefits. So we tried to like elevate the cake a little bit nutritionally that way. And then I made a bacon streusel on top. So you
Oh
kind of have
wow.
this salty crunch of bacon while eating you could use it as a breakfast cake or a snack cake. I just love the challenge of making that cake and bringing sort of the idea that bacon is sexy into my dessert.
Well, definitely. Bacon is sexy and everybody love it. Nobody can resist bacon. You know, why
Right.
not? So, Miss Amy, the book seems to champion playfulness. How can breaking a routine for a typical date night with shared decadent dessert project rekindle a sense of adventure play in a relationship?
Well, I mean, to me, just having we're just gonna have a dessert date is just
Mm-hmm.
so different. It's a little, it just takes you a little bit off of your usual pattern. So that in itself, I think, can set a more playful mood. Like, we're gonna have a dessert date, and you surprise someone, you present them with this dessert, or you make a dessert together. I mean, you're probably going to want to pick something that can be made pretty quickly. I don't know, or maybe that hour while the cake bakes is the perfect time to, you know, get some exercise, shall we say? But head off to the bedroom while your cake bakes.
Mm-hmm.
Or or have something that's already ready or can be made very quickly, and just sort of take that break together to indulge in the sensation of sweetness. The sweet foods can be very comforting and very, we can kind of get enveloped in that sort of that lusciousness of a sweet food. And especially if you're just taking the time to just be completely present in that moment with someone, it can really be a very seductive moment.
Definitely. You mentioned the idea of culinary foreplay. Can you elaborate on how anticipation and collaborative act of making dessert itself can be important as eating it?
Absolutely. I am all for cooking together, collaborative cooking, because when you're working together in that moment, you're sharing a rhythm, right? You have to kind of get in tune with one another to be able to successfully cook together. You're working toward a goal together. You're being a team.
Mm-hmm.
And that really, it pulls you into like being very, very to get, you are together with this person. This is your collaborator, this is your support. And I think that is often a very successful element of a romantic evening.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So this book feels like a celebration of self-love and soul pleasure, so much as pretend connection. How can someone use these recipes for a beautiful, indulgent evening for treating themselves?
So, oh, just an evening for one?
Yes,
Oh,
only
I
for
love
one.
it. Okay. So for an evening for one, well, then you're going to go through the book and find the recipe that is special for you, right? You're making
Mm,
yourself a gift. You're doing an act of service for yourself. You're showing yourself a gift of love. And find that thing that's kind of a turn on for you. If you love cherries, make a cherry dessert. If you love chocolate, make a chocolate dessert. And be present the same way that you would be with a partner. Like, turn off the technology, just be present in that moment and enjoy those textures and sensations of that delicious food.
yes, those sensation for sure. So, Miss Amy, let's talk about the broader themes and audience. This book feels like a celebration of culture that often frame dessert as a guilty pleasure. Your book reframes them as a joyful, connected pleasure. Why is it important for you to challenge the guilt narrative?
Well, as I said earlier, I love dessert. I love dessert, and I
Yes.
worked hard to find a way to give you a lot of desserts that give you more than just a pile of sugar and white flour. Um, that's kind of the idea here, so that you can kind of indulge more often. Potentially, you can enjoy um, that feeling. I mean, it's kind of a feeling of indulgence and even excess. And we should be allowed to have that, right? Unless, I mean, obviously, unless medically there's a reason not to. We should all be allowed to indulge that way. So I wanted to make it more attainable, and that's what we've done with this book.
Mm, yes, definitely. So, if you could have a reader take away one feeling mindset from your book more than a specific recipe, what would you want that to be?
Ooh. I mean, you just brought it up. Give yourself permission.
Yes.
We can all have dessert. We can all enjoy dessert. We can try to make good choices about it. We can maybe have a smaller portion of dessert. We can have a dessert that has less sugar in it. But we can all have and have that moment guilt free. Let that moment be. Let it be guilt free. Let it be your moment to have this indulgence.
Mm, indulgence. Wear that naked cake. People, looking at the history of aphrodisiacs, Miss Amy, many traditions come from cultures around the world. How did you respectfully engage with the incorporate this global tradition into a modern dessert context?
So the desserts in this book are very much, they are very much Western desserts, and they came from the ideas for each of the desserts came from flavors that were very familiar to my co-author and I. That being said, the history of aphrodisiacs, there's a fascinating global history of aphrodisiacs, and we can certainly celebrate foods from around, ingredients from around the world, and those aphrodisiac traditions from around the world, in a dish that's not for necessarily foreign, in a dish that's familiar, and have that kind of comfort as well as the exotic.
Mm-hmm. So, what has been most surprising or touching feedback you received from someone who has used your book to connect with their partner or themselves?
Um, I got an email, a very sweet email about a cake that brought a couple. That the woman said kind of brought this couple back together, and I love getting messages like that. I love that what we're putting out there is what people are getting. They're kind of getting it and moving forward with it. So I do love hearing stories like that the food does really help people connect, on a romantic or sexual level.
Hmm. What did writing and creating this book teach you personally about intersection of food, creativity, and human connection, Miss Amy?
Well, for me, what I really learned about with this book, if I'm being honest, of all my books, this was the one that stretched me the most, in the kitchen as a cook, working with ingredients, getting very creative and experimental with how we can elevate these recipes so you could have desserts that didn't leave you feeling heavy or immediately having a sugar crash. So this book, it was really more of a challenge, a creativity challenge than a conceptual challenge.
Mhm. For a listener who is intrigued but thinks, I'm not a baker, what is your
Mhm.
most encouraging piece of advice to get them started?
Well, I understand that. And you know what? You don't have to be a baker to enjoy this book. There are recipes that are more forgiving. Try things like puddings and drinks and don't get hung up on, yes, a cake has to be very precise. And if that's not you, don't do it. But there are other desserts that you can make and you will be successful.
Definitely, yes. So, Miss Amy, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course, my book 101 review in sixth season as well. Comedy 101 third season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 are fifth season. Science 101, Sex 101, and fourth season, Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, Bible Verses 101 are my baby podcasts. So, Miss Amy, finally, imagine the perfect scenario where someone uses your book. Set the scene for us. What does that ideal, connected, sensual look like from the start to finish?
Well, so I'm not gonna give you one set scene because then I want people to find for themselves what works for them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I will say, okay, how about, you find that recipe that clicks for both you and your partner, and you just let it go from there. Don't plan it too hard. Just let things just say we're gonna have a cake date or we're gonna have a dessert date, and just let it go from there. Let yourself indulge in the sensations of the whole experience, be present with your partner, and make sure it's a lot of fun.
A lot of fun, definitely. And Miss Riley, Miss Amy, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite the listeners to support your books, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
So Eat Cake Naked is available. It's ebook only and it's available through all the major ebook retailers. And if you're really curious about aphrodisiacs, want to know more, I have a podcast exclusive for you. Go to eatsomethingsexy.com/podcast. And
Mhm.
there you'll find an exercise that will help you discover more about aphrodisiacs and more about yourself.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Amy Reilly because if you support her for sure, more and more empowering books like this to rise. So, Miss Amy, thank you so much for your time. Monica, people, see you soon.